Josh Cribbs, our third member of this team on Dogs on the Run, does an excellent job for us breaking us down. The thing I love about talking to Josh, too, is that he gives a perspective that we'll never understand.
No, it's the player's perspective.
And to tell us exactly what's going through the player's mind as they go through that. There were a couple of things. Joe Thomas that I just brought up, I mean, it's truly amazing to think of what he's been able to do on this team. And consistent. And, you can go back and look through history at the Browns, and at that spot where Joe Thomas is right now, that's a historic spot for the Browns. And Joe has done a great job since he got here. I hope that everything works out with him, that they take care of him down the road, because the one thing about this front office is you don't know who's safe and who's not safe.
No, not at all. But you got to reward the guys who are the solid pieces and the foundation of your football team. And there's two guys I went to and I go to after every game whenever we're in the locker room. And after the win on Thursday night, the first two guys I went to interview is Joe Thomas and DeQuell Jackson, because you're happy for both of those guys, because you know what they've been through. They've been here the longest. They've been through the non-winning seasons. They've been through the horrendous starts. They've been through the quarterback changes, the coaching changes. And I felt sure, I was glad that the Browns won and we covered the football team, but I was happy for those guys. I found myself, especially Joe Thomas, I mean, standing there at his locker talking about a win and the fact that his team's in first place in the best 3-2 or 5-game start they've had in 10 years. I felt happy for him. So you do have to reward guys like him if you want this franchise to be successful going forward.
The one thing that I'll never forget in all the years of covering the Browns is something DeQuell Jackson said when he was a free agent a couple years ago, and that he had been injured and had missed an entire season and came back. And the question said, DeQuell, you're a free agent. What's up for you next year? And he said, are you kidding me? The Browns stood by me while I was injured and then gave me an opportunity to come back and play. I am staying here as long as I humanly possibly can. This franchise has given to me what no one else, I think, can possibly give to me. And whatever it takes to get a deal done, we're going to get that deal done.
That's the guy. I mean, he's the guy that keeps the whole defense together. I can't tell you how many different defensive players mentioned his name after the game on Thursday. Joe Hayden, T.J. Ward, they all mentioned one guy, and that was DeQuell Jackson. He said he never lets the guys get down. He always emphasizes to forget about the last one and move forward. He's the positive, as Joe Thomas is to the offense, he is the positive, steadying influence in that locker room. And you need guys like DeQuell Jackson.
Plus, he wears the old school hat like Rudy.
Very like it.
Albert.
Yes.
I love that thing,
yes.
too. So.
Very nice.
All right, let's go back to our Skype line, and we talk to Kenny Roda, who joins us throughout the show, one of our regular contributors on this show, also on our Ohio State postgame show as well and pregame show that you've been able to watch here on Newsnet 5 and been able to download on your Newsnet 5 app. Again, if you want to call in while we're talking to Kenny or anybody else, 216-431-3820 or Skype in, just like Kenny is right now, on Dogs on the Run. Kenny, what did you do yesterday? I think that's my biggest question for you. What did you do when the Browns weren't playing yesterday? It was kind of a surreal Sunday for me, I think.
You laughed at me on Saturday night when I told you I was going to watch some soccer on Sunday, because the Premier League plays Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and sure enough, my son got me hooked on soccer. Chelsea is his team, so I've adopted them as my team, and they beat Norwich yesterday 3-1 on the pitch. So I got up early, watched some soccer, and then got my list of my fantasy football league teams and players that were out there playing, and started watching some of their games if they were on, or checked out the NFL Red Zone.
All right, and he is not kidding. I mean, this is not a joke. This is the text I got from Kenny yesterday at 9:50 in the morning. By the way, Chelsea won, Norwich nothing, 60th minute, Oscar with a goal for Chelsea. And then he tweeted me back 10 minutes later, we're all level now, 1-1 on the pitch at Norwich, great match. The one thing about soccer is I like watching it live.
Have you ever played on the pitch? Have you ever either of you played soccer on the pitch anywhere, or no?
I can play indoor. I can't play outdoor. I'm not built for outdoor. I can tell you that.
So what you're saying is you're out of shape. You can't run with the guys.
Yeah, well, that's been true
up and
since
down
I
the
was
field
18 years
outdoors.
old.
Is that basically what you're telling me?
You know what my problem is when I'm playing soccer, and I know no one cares about this morning, but I tackle too much. I end up getting red cards. I end up getting tossed from the game.
That's the hockey mentality in him right there.
It drives me nuts because especially when you're playing indoor, you mentally think you're on an ice rink. For me, at least, that's how I play it.
I never played, so I mean, I can't even come up with anything good to counter that right there.
I've never played it. I've made fun of it for years, and then I started watching it and respecting the athletes that play the game and the little intricacies that are involved, the set plays on the corner kicks and that, and it's grown on me, and I actually enjoy it and got to cover the U.S. team when they were down at First Energy Stadium not too long ago.
Yeah, when I was in Columbus, I covered them with a crew, and I got to tell you, going to a crew game is really fun. Again, though, it's different watching on TV as it is to be there live. When it's live, you care about the corner kicks. You care. I mean, I know you're watching on TV, and if you really care, you're into it. But for some reason, when you're there, a corner kick seems so exciting. And all those things that maybe don't seem exciting on TV, I don't know that they translate as well as being there live. Being there live at a soccer game is actually really good.
No, it's
well,
awesome.
A corner kick leads possibly to the opportunity of scoring a goal because they do have designed set plays where they set picks, they cross, they run into each other, and they're trying to set up a teammate or two, certain guys on a set play to get a goal on a corner kick. So that's why fans get excited if the ball crosses the end line and they get a corner kick.
Well, you know what? I never played soccer, but as on the corner kick thing, on my resume reel, live, when I was in D.C., live, one of the D.C. United strikers, I did it live during my sportscast.
Is it live?
Converted a corner kick. It was live when I did it.
Make sure it was
he
live.
cranked it, boom, I headed it into the goal, and I'll tell you what, I was a little bit dizzy after that first. I mean, that ball was coming.
Was it live?
It was live.
I just want to make
I
sure.
heard it was live.
It was live. It was live. It was fresh. It was hip. It was happening. Yeah, I got to cover the World Cup, though, and I thought that was one of the coolest experiences ever. You want to talk about, you know, people that root for Mexico or whatever it is, Argentina. It was awesome.
This is 3 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back.
It's live.
No, you're not.
It is
How many
live.
hate texts are we getting in tweets right now based on this?
there's the flag. I
It's
was
about
waiting for that.
time we got the flag thrown on us. Do you want to explain to us exactly why we had the flag thrown on us?
As a soccer player in high school, I don't care about soccer right now. We're talking Browns. Let's get back on topic.
Oh, look at that. The kid thinks he's excited. Here's your flag back, by the way. Boom, as I take out your computer. All right, we talked about getting things involved, and Jordan Cameron, I think, is in an interesting situation because we saw what he was able to do with Brian Hoyer, Kenny, and how he was able to be an intricate part of the offense. I'm wondering what's going to happen with Brandon Weeden, and part of me is reverting back to last year with Pat Shurmur saying Pat Shurmur really couldn't figure out how to use Jordan Cameron the way that they did this year. Is he still going to be able to be an intricate part of this offense with Brandon Weeden as a quarterback?
He better be. If Brandon Weeden doesn't use him or want to go to him, especially in the red zone, then he's just flat out stupid because that's a target, that's an athlete. That my biggest concern with Jordan Cameron was, could he stay healthy? Well, he's staying healthy, and he's putting up big numbers. And we're seeing, look in Denver with the way Peyton Manning uses the tight ends there. You look at Jimmy Graham in New Orleans and how Drew Brees uses him there as his number one target. I know there's that connection between Brandon Weeden and Josh Gordon, and that's great. But you cannot ignore a talent like Jordan Cameron, especially in the red zone when you have a guy that size with a good vertical who's used to going up playing basketball and grabbing those rebounds and boxing out. You're crazy if you're Brandon Weeden and you don't throw the ball to Jordan Cameron, especially in the red zone.
I was just reading tweets. People are getting back to us. Tara asked us what happened to Weeden between pre and actual games. Slowed way down, put a shocker in the football so he releases it faster.
Well, we talked about
in other words, getting stimulus.
You know, I think it's interesting, and I asked this again, and we were talking with Matt Wilhelm about this on Saturday night after the Ohio State game. You know, here's a guy that played for Norv Turner, that Norv is so, and I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this, but he is so in the quarterback's head, if you know where I'm going with this, to make sure those guys release the ball quick. Trent Green talked about that on the broadcast the other night on Westwood One, that you know, Norv Turner would stand behind him and say, release, you're holding on to the ball too long. Is this a matter of retraining for Brandon Weeden? And if you look at it, Weeden said after the game, the one thing Hoyer taught me was to get rid of the ball faster.
Yeah, and I think that's something that he learned from watching on the sidelines. Now, will it translate to the actual football field? Old habits are tough to break. And Brandon Weeden is used to standing in that pocket, holding on to that football, waiting for somebody to be open because in college somebody eventually would come open. Hopefully he's learned now with his year and a few games in the National Football League that you've got to make those progression reads a lot quicker And I remember Bernie Kosar telling me this, he would be able to get up to the line of scrimmage, look at the defense that was out there, and know what they were trying to take away. And therefore, he'd eliminate that progression and just move to his next progression. So if he saw that they were going to take away, double team his first progression, he wouldn't even look that way. He would make his number 2 progression the first read and then go on down the line. I don't think that Brandon Weeden is to that point where he can do that like Bernie was able to dissect defenses, in the pre-snap read. But hopefully he's going to get better at that, not stare down the one guy he's trying to get the ball to, and realize if that guy's covered, then he better go to his next progression and know where that dump-off pass is, that release guy, to get rid of the football to avoid the sack, lost yardage, possible fumbles.
Yeah, I hope that he's learned, Kenny, because in the preseason, he said one of the things he was working on was not tapping the ball. It's one of the things he noticed when he went back and watched film. Then they put him in the shotgun to give him some more time. And now he gets injured. He comes back, but he's still tapping the football out of the shotgun. He did take some sacks, and some of those sacks were on him on Thursday night for holding on to the ball too long. I'm just wondering, he knows what he has to do, but he's still making the same mistakes. And I wonder to myself, how much more rope can they give Brandon Weeden to continue to give this kid a chance to be the guy that they hope he can be, even if it's only for just this season?
He isn't the guy because they put Brian Hoyer in there when he got hurt, and then they kept Brian Hoyer in there when Brandon Weeden was ready to play. So we've learned that Lombardi and Banner, their guy was Brian Hoyer. Unfortunately, Brian Hoyer's done for the season, so the backup that they have is Brandon Weeden. So he's going to play, and we read that list earlier when I was on with you. There's really nobody that jumps out at you that you want to go sign as a free agent that you would bring in not to be the backup but to put in as a starter, and they obviously must not believe in Jason Campbell enough, so they've got to go with Weeden. They're kind of stuck with Brandon Weeden, whether they like him or not, believe in him or not, and they're hoping that Chud and Norv Turner, along with Hoyer, I'm sure Brian's going to be working with them and trying to help him out. That's the type of teammate Brian Hoyer is. Hopefully the 3 of them can get through to Brandon Weeden and make him a serviceable quarterback in this offense for the Browns for the rest of this season.
All right, Kenny Roda, we'll talk to you a little bit later coming up in this last half hour. So we'll talk to you towards the bottom of the hour. Thanks, Kenny.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, Kenny Roda, one of our contributors, also getting ready to vote on the Harris poll next